Sources close to the investigation say someone may have purposely flown the jet hundreds of miles off course. Satellites continue to pick up signals from the plane up to 8 hours after it took off, which means the search is now being redirected to two different search zones, one headed towards Kazakhstan and the other to the South Indian Ocean. Each day that ticks by becomes more critical to finding this plane because investigators say the flight's data recorder, or that little black box, only sends out signals for up to 30 days. So recovering that box is imperative to understanding exactly what happened. And joining us now to discuss the latest developments in the search for Flight 370 is Todd Curtis, Al Jazeera America transportation contributor. He's in Newton, Massachusetts this morning. Todd, good morning. This morning, the Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak said that these movements are consistent with deliberate action by someone on that plane. So, Todd, how does that change the nature and the scope of the investigation?
Well, the important things that change the scope of the investigation is the fact that they're now saying it was active. The aircraft was somehow in operation for 8 hours, which of course extends where it could have been taken. And on the part of the deliberate action, I think that was carefully worded for a reason. I believe also it was deliberate action, but not necessarily for malicious reasons.
So what other kind of deliberate action could there be?
Well, one scenario is a series of system failures on the aircraft that go beyond anything that's in the flight manual as far as emergency procedures are concerned, where the crew has to become very creative in the sky. And part of that creativity may be rerouting the flight. Why they would have done so and not changed a course toward land or toward an airport, that's another question entirely, which is why it's very, very important that the black boxes and any other information from that aircraft be recovered as soon as possible.
So just to be clear, we're on the same page, you're saying you do think that there was human intervention, but you think that human intervention was likely reacting to a mechanical failure?
Well, I'm saying that's one possibility. A hijacking by an outside party is a possibility. A commandeering of the aircraft by the crew is a possibility. The crew doing everything in their best interest to deal with an emergency situation is also a possibility.
Got it.
And although, again, they are saying it could be a hijacking, I hold that that's only one possible option.
Okay, so Todd, the Prime Minister did say that based on this new satellite information, the investigation was leaving the South China Sea and then moving into one of two new possible locations. Let's take a look at those possible locations. There's one, either this northern corridor, which stretches from northern Thailand to the border of Kazakhstan and Turkmenistan, or there's the southern corridor, stretching from Indonesia to the southern Indian Ocean. Todd, what will the governments of those new areas now be called upon to do? Will they get roped into this investigation?
Well, for the northern route, certainly. That's very, very likely that that would happen. And that given that there's a possibility of this happening, there's a precedent through the international cooperation that happens in an accident investigation for them to be involved. As for the southern route, well, there are no national authorities that have sway over the international waters of the Indian Ocean. So if indeed the southern route turns out to be where this aircraft is, it'll be an effort of a variety of navies and other military and civil forces to comb the oceans for it.
So, Todd, how different, though, is this from that Air France flight that went down in 2009 when it was traveling from Rio de Janeiro to Paris? I mean, then it took them almost 2 years for them to find that wreckage. But why did it take them so long then? And are we seeing a similar situation now?
Well, in that case, in 2009, there was floating wreckage found only about 5 days later. And the other thing that made that search easier, although it was a very long and difficult search, was that they had a very, very good idea of its last location. So when they did start to do an oceanographic search, even though it was well beyond the 30 days where the acoustic pinger would have been working, they were able to eventually find it. It took several trips, though. So this could be an indication of how long this particular search could be.
All right. Thanks so much, Todd Curtis, Al Jazeera America transportation contributor, joining us from Newton, Massachusetts this morning. Thanks so much, Todd.